Welcome to Giant Size Issues number 2, the comic book and pop culture webcast, where I promised it would get better, and I'll be damned where it's shield. I'm your host, Ash Fuquay, and joining me today we have Drew,
Chris, Pat,
Blood,
Russian. All right, well, tonight we're going to be discussing Spider-Man, the Superior Spider-Man, how they have a new writer. We're also going to be talking a little bit and answering questions from viewers like you. And we're also, as promised, we're going to do our comic book Deathmatch. We don't have a shredder yet, so we're gonna.
We can use bare hands. Fuck it.
We'll just
You know, in
very foul language.
in Mother Russia, they don't just use bare arms.
Yeah.
They are able to use the whole bear.
Yeah, you need
so
to let it go to waste.
There you go. So I guess let's get into it, guys. Let's just talk about this week in comics. What do we have?
All right. This week we've got the Justice League with a sort of a point between stories. It's in 1718 where they've just finished up their run of Atlantis and they are on their way to Trinity War. But what they're doing in between primarily is expanding their roster. They're bringing in a lot of new faces, characters that mostly we knew from the old DC universe. But some of them are, changed up a little bit. Like the Atom's a woman now. Platinum is the only one of the Metal Men we see. But it's an opportunity to get a lot of new personalities on the team to open up a lot of new storytelling avenues.
All right. You got anything to add to that, Chris?
I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. At least, I mean, Jesus Saiz is on the art. He's fantastic. I really like his work. He also did. Actually, the last thing I remember seeing him in was some of the lead-ins to Infinite Crisis from years ago. Basically, his art, it's real. It's subtle. I'd call it. It's a lot more realistic than you'll see from a lot of artists. Not very cartoony or anything. People just look like people, not crazy shapes.
Yeah.
Doesn't have people twisting, turning, looking in weird ways. Other than that, they're going. I mean, Justice League Unlimited with it. Like they're just expanding the whole roster. It's not just 5 people anymore. So I like it.
All right.
Now, you bring up realism for the art. I've seen some comics where the story is fantastic, but just the over-realistic art takes away from it.
Sure.
Does this avoid that?
The story in this one isn't too fantastic. I mean, it's basically the Justice League. So far, they've just been sitting around tables talking. I mean, they haven't done too much
I hate
crazy
people
stuff.
to do that.
But it's been fun and interesting to read still. And they've kind of flashed back to when Darkseid was invading and how a lot of these new members helped out then or were of assistance during other crises like during Throne of Atlantis. So again, it's mostly grounded so far because they're really just talking and figuring out how they're going to expand.
Yeah,
So nothing too crazy yet.
In that inter-office environment, making them look more realistic kind of sells it to you more.
Yeah.
If they were out, fighting Darkseid or whatever, then it would look a little weird and probably be hard to, convey.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like office dialogue. They're talking about, who would be good for the team, why they would be good, and where they've helped out before. So the fact that they're relatable to real people, real characters, it does kind of make it easier to read.
All right, that
Nice.
sounds good.
Nice. Well, like we were talking about in the opening here, what about Superior Spider-Man? Who do we have as the new writer?
Christos Gage just came on after Dan Slott's run as the new writer. And
Slot.
Now, before you go in, is Slot actually done? Because that really surprises me.
he is done. Marvel announced a new writer starting in early summer.
Huh, I kind of figured he'd carry Superior Spider-Man through to what I assume is the inevitable end, where Peter basically assumes control of himself again.
Hey, spoiler alert.
Well, I
It
don't
hasn't
know.
happened yet. So.
I don't know that he's not going to come back, but at least at this point, we know that there are a minimum of 2 writers that are going to have arcs that they want to tell with Spider-Man as Otto before that happens.
Okay. All right.
Now, Christos Gage. He's written a lot of things both for Marvel and for other publishers. But I gotta say, my personal favorite for him was a limited he did for Avatar called Absolution, which, after reading that, pretty much sold me on giving him a chance on anything he tries.
Nice. Well, what's new in the Walking Dead? Like I know that we have some character deaths in the new
Yes.
in the new one. Also, that they ran into the Saviors.
The Saviors.
Yes.
They have come to a point where they've found a place where they can settle down. It's walled off. It's a little suburb with solar panels to provide power,
Oh, yeah?
and a community of decent people.
Has
And-
anyone? Sorry to cut you off. Has anyone else read this?
I don't read The Walking Dead
Not
each
to know
month.
this
It's honestly a little much.
Is it?
I don't feel like getting into a bunch of characters that I'm reading each month, and then you hit a cliffhanger where you're worried about, is this person gonna die, or seeing somebody die
Yeah.
monthly like that. Again, I get those big ass compendiums,
Yeah.
so I've only read the first one. I've got the second one sitting on my on a shelf, and I just kind of every day I look at it and wonder, am I ready to read this? And the answer's been no every day. But not to take away from the series, it's great.
Yeah.
But
All right.
I'll get to that one when I can.
I
Sorry,
can
sorry.
understand that because there are times when I'll let it back up just because I don't want that cliffhanger after 32 pages. I want to know what happens next.
Yeah.
But getting back to that, they've gotten to a point where the world has started to sort of return to normal. Yeah, the zombies are still there; they're still a threat, but they're sleeping in real beds. They have doctors. They have armory. They have maybe you don't have an armory in your real life, but anyway, they have a
You're
general
at
store.
my house.
This is true. So they meet a character, Jesus, who scouts out new communities for.
Is it actually Jesus or is it Jesus?
Well, he does look a little bit like the painting. Actually, I do not know, but he is a white guy, so I'm guessing.
All right.
Plus, anytime somebody shouts his name, it looks like they're cursing him. But anyway, he scouts out new communities for a trading network.
Yeah.
And so they meet one of these new towns and find out that there is this group of armed thugs they've got a protection racket going
All right.
called the Saviors. And if you give them a percentage of your stuff, they'll keep the zombies clear from your place. If you don't, they'll murder you horribly. And so it's just been several issues of nobody wanting to do what the Saviors say, but not seeing any way around it. In this latest issue that came out last week, they've started to fight back. They found people that are willing and able to help.
Really?
And it's going to feel like they've grown teeth again instead of just being these sheep that are being terrorized.
Yeah. Well, okay. This is a dumb question because, everyone out there has been keeping up with The Walking Dead on AMC. I haven't.
You terrible.
I know. I
I
haven't.
haven't either. I'm gonna be honest.
See, there you go.
so-
I honestly, I don't have enough time to commit to sit down and watch everyone I care about die. So, really, what it comes down to is me choosing my own happiness versus, a
A fantastic show.
Fortunately,
depression is really what it comes to.
some of us live for the slaughter, so
Yeah, well, like sheep, right? Anyway, where are we in? Like, how far ahead is the comic book to where the show is, or can you even really compare that?
you can to some extent. They're changing it up in the show enough that you don't like. I'm current on the comic book. I've been reading it since it started, and I don't know who's going to go next. So that said, they're still keeping it close to the story.
Black guy.
Hey, that does
That's
happen.
entirely possible.
Yeah.
But they've only
Yeah.
got the one black guy now, so until they bring the next one, they're not going to kill Tyrese off. I don't
That's
think.
true. Tyrese
Unless they
can't
throw
go.
me that, unless they throw me that curveball.
Or Kirkman's
Yeah.
going to see this episode and say, "I won't do what."
This is true.
I hope Kirkman sees this episode.
But
and comes on the show in a couple.
That's
of
right.
weeks.
Yes.
in relation to just giving a vague idea of where they are in the comics, they're about at the third trade paperback, so 18 issues in, give or take.
Okay,
20
so
something. Whereas I think the 17th came out not too long ago, so there's plenty of story to tell.
Good. So, well, I mean, it's not like I'm not worried about them running out of story for AMC. AMC has phenomenal writers.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I mean, they can use. So what you're saying is they pretty much use the comic books kind of as a guideline, but then
Right, it's sort of a
so people aren't
springboard.
surprised. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not the direct template, but
I mean they want to
draw
surprise
they draw enough for it so that if you've read the comics, you have a general idea of what's coming up.
And
But
let's
you don't
face-
know who's gonna die, who's
Yeah.
gonna live here.
Let's face it, some of the stuff they do in the comic you can't do on TV.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kirkman has also said in the past that he sees some aspects of the TV as a certain amount of a do-over. Not necessarily that he feels that he did something wrong early in the series, but he had different options of things he wanted to try, and sometimes he changes the story, through production mandate or whatnot in order to say, I kind of wanted to go in this direction.
Yeah, and that allows him to see, like, hey, what would happen if this happened instead of this?
Yeah. I stopped reading the
this
series.
last episode, I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but if you missed it, you're going to love it.
I stopped reading the series around issue 50. It was like 52 or 53. Not because I didn't like it. It just kind of fell out of my stack. I didn't feel like keeping up with it. And I can see there are things that I've heard about on the show that I thought, yeah, I kind of buy that a bit more than what happened in the series. Not that I ever disliked the series. It just seems a bit more palpable, or at least for that media outlet, it does take nice liberties that kind of keep you on your toes and also tell a good story.
And it lets those of us that have been reading it the whole time still enjoy a show
Yeah,
that we can't predict.
invest. Whereas otherwise you might think I can miss, half a season and come back and be
Right.
fine. Yeah.
Nice. I heard something the other day about the new Shadow Man movie. I didn't hear a lot about it, but what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on it, Pat?
Shadow Man's a title that's by Valiant Comics that was written in the early 90s, I think.
Yeah.
And recently got revived. It's I don't know a whole lot about it, honestly. I didn't know a lot about Valiant when they were new, and I thought they had died off as a company long ago. But they've been putting out some excellent titles recently, and that combined with the fact that J. Michael Straczynski is going to be writing the script for the movie has me interested.
Yeah. Nice.
And they called in a couple of other producers, like the guy who did The Mummy, to help out with it. And the CEO actually went out and said that Shadow Man is one of the first of titles in a vast lineup that they're working on right now.
Is that just for Valiant that they're working on, or
yeah,
just
Valiant itself is.
Oh,
working
nice.
on.
That's
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes, they have a lineup that
Hell yeah.
they're working on. They're working on something with Sony at the same time. So
Sweet.
I'm actually looking forward to this.
Did you guys read any Shadow Man or anything back in the day?
I never read the series. My standing philosophy is generally if it's Straczynski and it's not Superman walking across the country, I'll give it a chance. So,
All right.
Nice.
Like I said, I haven't read Shadow Man itself, but you guys know I have been pushing some of the Valiant titles on pretty much everybody that's willing to listen pretty hard.
Yeah.
So if this movie does well, and it leads to them using some of their other titles for movies, then I think that's an excellent thing that could really let an independent publisher take off and compete with the big boys.
Well, okay, I used to read a little bit of Shadow Man. I mean, like when it came out in the 90s, but these guys didn't read it at all. Like, explain who he is and what he does.
Like I said, limited knowledge, but it is a voodoo-based superhero, basically. He has powers like he can see in the dark, he heals quickly, he has a sort of little magical powers. He's not Superman.
Yeah.
But he's also not something you see all the time.
All right.
So it's kind of a new direction. And you better believe I'm going to be picking up at least a couple of these books just to see if this idea as a movie is something I'd be interested in.
Gonna be worthwhile.
Right.
Yeah. Well, how about you guys? The new Kick-Ass 2, the was it the Red Band trailer? Is that? Have you guys seen that? Like I know Chris,
I've
because you
seen
and I
it.
watched it
Yeah.
together. And Drew, have you seen it?
yeah, I saw it.
You have. What do you guys think of that?
I've got to say, I had no interest in the comic itself in either season of Kick-Ass, and I didn't see the first movie. But seeing that trailer, actually really piqued my interest. It looks awesome. It has Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Yeah, as the comedian, that's just gonna be fantastic. I'm looking forward to that alone.
Well, he's not the
Just-
comedian.
Well, yeah, but he's a comedian-esque character. From
Yeah.
There are
what they
similarities,
showing
yes.
Yeah.
in the trailer.
What was his name, like Captain Carnage or something?
It's Captain Stars and Stripes.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
is. It's Captain Carnage.
He's a reformed mobster.
Yeah, Admiral Crunch.
No, I was actually really impressed because you guys know I'm a big fan of the Kick-Ass series, and
Yeah.
the first movie was like if you took the comic and gave it a happier ending.
Yeah.
They didn't do any of the really horrible crap today that was done in the book. From what I've seen of the trailer, it's going to stay way closer to the comic, which was at times depressing as hell.
I'm just glad that I can see a movie that's got McLovin calling himself motherfucker.
Yeah.
The motherfucker.
The motherfucker. That's right. Not just motherfucker. The motherfucker.
And have an army of motherfuckers.
And Vlad should appreciate that his personal bodyguard is named Mother Russia.
There you go.
Okay.
Um,
Of course, it's a villain, but okay.
well, yeah. What part of Russian do you know?
I was gonna say
Because
that's
apparently
what it always
it's
is.
20 years ago.
All right. Well, what about what else is out there? The Ant-Man short.
Oh yeah.
I know that you saw that. I actually hadn't been able to check it out yet.
I did. I saw it. It's very short, as the name would imply, but it shows you kind of.
I saw it was a play on words because he's tiny.
Oh yeah, that does work.
Yeah.
But it just kind of shows you the type of effects they're going to be using in the movie. You see him kind of looking out of a vent at these two guards in front of an elevator. He jumps out of the vent. You see him change size. They display the fact that he does have, his proportionate human strength. I'm not sure how you would even phrase
Well,
that.
yeah,
When
he
he's- when
retains
he's
all of his
ant-sized.
strength.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when he is ant-sized. They do,
Which is an amazing superpower.
It is, yeah. It doesn't make a lot of physical sense, but it's comics, so
Oh
just
yeah,
let it go.
it's
And,
comics,
yeah.
physics. Yeah.
Comic science.
Comic science, yeah.
Basically, the rule is fuck it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do a very quick and pretty cool fight scene. You can catch it on YouTube if you're really great with your timing. People will post it, and it's almost immediately pulled down. I know some people have put storyboards of it on there. My one complaint, and it's
I've
not
seen the
really-
storyboards.
Oh, you
I
have?
have seen the
Okay.
storyboards.
My one complaint, and it's not really a complaint because, it's a test short. It is not indicative of what the movie's going to be. But the helmet, to me, looked a little too Sandman's gas mask.
Really?
Kind of steampunky, where I would think that it would be, a sleek, modern sort of thing.
Now, are they going to
especially-
do like the actual Hank Pym?
Apparently, Scott Lang and Hank Pym are in the movie. I don't know how they're going to be doing that.
Huh.
But they
That's kinda what I
have
was
said
about
that
to
they're
ask.
featuring both of them.
I know, I'm
Yeah.
close. I can pick shit up.
That's what I was thinking. Just I figure it's just like a little short, so they didn't really go into any story or anything. But I'm wondering, is it Hank Pym, Scott Lang, or is
They
it
have
like
both of them.
Irredeemable?
Yeah,
Whatever his name
the
is.
good thing is that there's no Eric O'Grady. But but yeah, something that I read makes me think that the Ant-Man in the title is going to be Scott Lang because they only announced that Hank was in it afterwards. That's a little disappointing to me, just because I like Scott Lang as a character,
Yeah.
But
he's
you like
not
beating
Ant-Man
lives
to
better,
me.
right?
Oh.
How am I supposed to answer that, Chris? Oh wait, no.
You say
but
yes. Tim Pan.
but because to me, Hank Pym is Ant-Man, and
Yeah. No,
Yellow
I agree.
Jacket and
Giant
Giant
Man and yeah.
And a founding
And-
Avenger that they didn't put in the Avengers film.
Oh, yeah, it's
I was a little upset about that.
Hank
maybe
Pym-
he was there. He was just really
just didn't
small.
see
You just didn't see him.
Yeah,
He's the reason they all fell over, like the droids in Star Wars 1. So
I really do hope that Hank is the title character because he's one of my favorite Marvel characters, just due to being the king of bad decisions.
oh yes,
It's true.
absolutely everything he does has
failed
a
horribly.
either that or
Probably
has a
killed lots of
50-50 chance of fucking up everything or being amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's if you take Reed Richards and just get him shit faced for like 14 hours a day, that's kind of what Pym's like. It's like, oh, I made this. What does it do? Ah, fuck if I know. And then he turns it on and it like sucks your dick off and shoots it in your ass. Like, it's ridiculous.
I like, though, at the very least, they acknowledge that
Like, this has no practical applications.
when he temporarily assumed the identity of the Wasp, they did have him just in a jumpsuit with no shoes, which is what you imagine somebody like that just doing. Hanging around in his house all day,
Yeah.
with wings on, no shoes, trying to solve problems that don't exist.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, he's pretty much just hanging out in his pajamas.
yeah,
Yep. You know why? Because he's shit-faced.
most likely.
Building robots that
Billy, yeah.
pull your dick off and put it in your
Yeah,
ass.
exactly. It's just. Speaking of Ultron. No, joking. We talked about Ultron last time. I'm not going to do it again. But I would just like to say Ultron will rip your dick off and stick it in your ass.
He does that.
But speaking of Hank Pym,
Let's talk about like a story arc from a while ago. And I know, Chris, you brought this up outside of the podcast when we were talking about the Ultimates.
Yeah, the Ultimates 1 and 2 specifically, written by Mark Miller, drawn by Brian Hitch. To me, it's like the quintessential modern Avengers story. It introduces basically all the your classic Avengers. You know,
Yeah.
Cap, Iron Man, Thor, the Wasp, Hank Pym, Hawkeye, the Widow, Hulk. It introduces them all, and actually, which is kind of surprising for Mark Miller, focuses on their personalities, what makes them them, what makes them interesting. It's not just punching and kicking. It's a lot of character moments, a lot of just making you understand who they are. Cap is, the man at a time, just like always, but it spends a lot of time showing how he reacts to everything, trying to adjust to the world and just not being able to do it well.
Yeah. Well, for people who don't know, the first volume of the Ultimates actually was written by Milner and illustrated by Hitch. It was published as a limited series. It ran for 13 issues.
Over like 2 years. Let's keep that in
I was
mind.
gonna say
It's just one of those slow
That's
ones.
where I was getting to. There were a few production delays from March 2012 to April 2004 or something. And the second series, also by Milner and Hitch, had similar production delays. Even though the first volumes of Ultimate #1 ranked 4th among the top 300 comic books in February 2022, as well as the next 3 issues, they ranked second, and third. And it's ridiculous that you see something that popular and the second time around you still can't get it right.
Yeah.
In production. But yeah, overall plot, it's pretty much strange beings with incredible powers. People show up to challenge like the old orders. And then ordinary citizens are scared shitless. So the government solution is a small tech-based army known as the Ultimates. And it's got Iron Man, a publicity-seeking capitalist. Let's see, Giant Man, a Prozac popping scientist with inferiority complex. Let's see, the Wasp.
Let's just leave it at that.
That's all she gets.
Petite powerhouse. Let's see, the Hulk, a brilliant gentleman with inhibition, overpowering addiction that may tear apart everything that he loves and everyone.
And now cannibal.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's right. Captain America, and I like what this says right here. Captain America, a star-spangled super soldier with John Glenn's buzz cut, John McCain's politics, and Mike Tyson's right cross.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And Thor, a new age guru who may either be the living son of a Norse god or a lunatic with a big hammer. And the whole lifespan of it was March 2002 to April 2004. So let's talk about Volume 1, which the first one came out in October 2000. No, March 2002.
Yeah.
Is that when it came out? Yeah.
For sure.
So let's talk about Volume 1 then, guys.
Volume 1 was basically the Ultimates kind of assembling and dealing with a big problem that resulted from really just Banner being teased and feeling kind of unwanted, and eventually turning himself into the Hulk.
while trying to find the
while trying to
make
create
Super
the
Soldier Serum.
and that eventually led to big fight at the end of the series with the Hulk, in which he rampaged through New York, killed hundreds of people, and
Completely destroyed like an entire wharf.
yeah.
And then ran into Spider-Man.
In the day's business for the Hulk.
Yeah, but I guess the difference that you'd see between like the Ultimates and a normal Avengers story is that once they fought the Hulk again, he killed hundreds of people. There was damage that was done that wasn't just immediately cleaned up. It wasn't one issue. It was actually it was weeks of cleanup that had to happen. There was a funeral for all the people that had died. You see lasting effects, and actually at the end of it there was the trial of the Hulk, which goes into season 2.
For those of you listening at home, I am pouring another shot.
Then there was also the establishment of the ultimate version of the Skrulls, the Chitauri.
Yes.
Who, and then they proceeded to do the Secret Invasion done well.
Before Secret Invasion.
Right, years before Secret Invasion. Where this alien race has been on Earth to some degree or another ever since World War II. And that was in fact the last mission Cap went on, where he was trying to stop a Nazi bomb that was built with alien help. So he gets locked in the ice for significantly longer this time around than he was the first time. So it's a much larger culture clash for him, which is a large focus of the first volume, really. But that and the relationship between Thor and Iron Man, and the relationship between Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Banner and Betty. That's also an important one.
Yes.
I'd say.
Oh, and
because
Nick
of the
Fury
way
as
she
well.
treats him, and then the way first of all he reacts, and then the way the Hulk reacts. Because if you remember, during the Hulk's rampage, they try to use Betty to lure him away, and the Hulk actually jumps after her. Has that great scene of he grabs onto the helicopter and screams at her, "No, Banner needs you. Banner loves you." That's something that the regular Hulk would never have done. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He didn't like Banner. He was never on Banner's side. While this Hulk was just it was just more of his inhibitions, being taken away.
Yeah.
Rather than just being some dumb guy, he's just crazy.
Yeah, he's just
kind of with love for her, or with
crazy angry guy.
Yeah.
Who's not thinking clearly. That's got
who has unimaginable
strength.
strength.
He's essentially all id, and a lot of this ties into the fact that the first series, there's plenty of action in it, but as far as issue by issue, there's a lot of character development, which personally I think is kind of outside the norm for Mark Miller.
Yeah.
In general,
agreed.
in general, I'm not a big fan of Mark Miller, I'll be honest. Some people will jump down your throat for saying that, but I've never enjoyed a lot of his stuff. I love the Ultimates, though. I really think he plays, the Cap Man Out of Time thing very well. He also... This is one of those hot button things that has to be thrown in everything.
Same.
He ties these heroes into, a post 9/11. Do you have a sound for that, or
No,
just
no.
gonna leave it alone? Okay.
I'm sorry, this doesn't come equipped with an airplane button. Please continue.
But there
But
was
a
an awe.
post 9/11
There was an
anti-terrorism
awe, but
world.
there's also
That's-
not a Durga jihad.
That's partially what spawned the series is how would these characters function in our world, where people were still scared that something random was going to happen. That's why in the comics they assembled this team, and then they found that they didn't really have a purpose because that type of thing doesn't happen every day.
Yeah.
Whereas in your mainstream Avengers comic, it does.
Yep.
Sometimes twice.
Yeah, aliens invade, then what?
A giant robot
Well,
attacks.
A demon comes out of hell and wants to eat your city.
And
Actually,
rewrites continuity.
in 2004, Milner had an interview, and he was quoted saying the difference between the Ultimates, talking about the Ultimates and the Avengers. The difference between them is that the idea behind the Avengers is that the Marvel Universe's biggest players all get together and fight the biggest supervillains that they can't defeat individually. Whereas in the Ultimates, it's more of an exploration of what happens when a bunch of ordinary people turn into super soldiers and are being groomed to fight like a real world, terror attack.
Yeah, and
So,
you do
yeah.
believe these characters are ordinary people. You
Yeah.
can relate to them in certain aspects and whatnot.
Definitely.
Like they even modernized all their outfits and uniforms and made them look like something you could actually put together. instead of just painting on, a suit.
But just so you know that it's by Miller, it does have its share of politics in it, hinted in different places. Every time George Bush shows up, he looks like a complete dumbass. And I'm sure that's because Miller said to Hitch, if you draw him looking at all respectable, I will fire you.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because, and the same thing, I'm just using quotes here that I found online, but Hitch actually said, he described this after completing the final issue of Ultimates 2. He goes, the bane of my life for the last 5 years is gone from my day-to-day routine. He actually was describing the job as difficult, but stated that no prior job in his then 20 years in business was so creatively rewarding and time-consuming or fulfilling. But nowhere does it say anything about him getting pistol whipped.
Of course not. He wanted to keep working for Marvel.
I was about to say, but I'm sure it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely was probably beat the fuck for a while.
Yeah, for spending 6 months on an issue or two. So.
Per issue, yes. Oh my god.
Also, Miller always has come across as a very angry man.
Which was
Oh yeah.
No,
No.
those were some horrible waits between those last few issues. Like,
You mean when you're waiting for shit?
Oh, yeah. I was. I was waiting for. I think it was the last issue, which had like the 12-page spread. It took like 4 months to come out.
Well, not only that, it was originally going to be a 12-issue run. You're talking about Ultimates 2, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
the end of
they
Ultimates 2, yeah.
did a 13th one. So
Yeah.
you thought that when 12 came out, okay, it's finally over. No, there's
No,
another
no.
one, giant
6
size
months
issue,
later,
6
it'll
months
come
in the
out.
future.
Oh, but
Yeah.
let's be fair. That wasn't the only time that happened in the Ultimate comic.
Oh, that's true.
Who read Ultimate Hulk versus Wolverine?
Yeah.
The 4-year story.
I didn't read
forgot
that, but I
about
remember
that.
the 2-year break, and that was Lionel Yu.
Yeah.
But
And didn't Damon Lindelof write
yeah,
that?
yeah, the guy that wrote Lost,
Lost,
and one
yeah.
of the writers on Lost. Yeah.
All right, let's go into volume 2.
Okay.
Pat, do you want to lead off volume 2?
Yeah, Volume 2 was, like you said, it was about a group of people being brought together as super soldiers.
Yeah.
And America started using them as a strike force, which got the rest
Like
of the world...
Alpha Flight.
America, not Canada. Which got the rest of the world really, really
Yep,
nervous.
no,
The troll? No.
Yeah,
Puck.
no, it's Puck.
Close enough. Okay.
Because suddenly America has these living weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
And they're using them for military assets. So the powerful nations of the world get together with Loki. I'm not kidding here. They think this is a good idea. And Loki says, okay, I'll help you out. Not only will I build you a team of super soldiers to replace them from all over the world, but I'll make everybody think Thor's crazy and not really a god, but some lunatic who stole some advanced technology and decided to use it to stop oil drilling and deforestation.
Again, and this is the point that needs to be made one more time. Mark Miller, telling all this story, does it fantastically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastically. All these details done, pulls it off without any problem.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think Mark Miller has done that since. Has told a story that has twists and turns, surprises.
You can go even further to say that, on the flip side of the storylines that you're talking about, you're also looking at the consequences of this team's existence in Volume 2. Whereas you have, them reveal that Bruce Banner is the Hulk. So suddenly people have a scapegoat for the attack on New York. It's not some monster that they don't know about anymore. It's a guy. So they put him on trial. You do have people suddenly examining the fact, this guy says that he's a Norse god. Should we believe that? Which, yes, it was Loki, causing this to happen, but it's a reasonable argument. If some guy showed up one day, had the power over lightning, and said that he was a Norse god, do you believe him?
Also, through the whole volume, we don't really see Loki. We just hear Thor saying, no, really, it's my brother, the god of mischief. You've got to believe me.
Yeah.
But nobody's seen Loki.
As a comic fan, you're inclined to believe Thor, but when you really think about it, there's not much reason to until the end.
Well,
And as a reader, you don't see that. You don't see anything like
Yeah.
that happen. He's saying that, and you get the Ultimate's reaction, which is to actually attack him in a forest, and Hawkeye sets him on fire with a fucking flamethrower.
Burns his hair off.
when I was actually reading it the first time, I had no clue which way Miller was going to go. I didn't know if he was going to say, "Oh yeah, it's really Loki. He's not screwing with you," or if he was going to go, "No, this is the way I'm doing Thor."
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool because that way I couldn't really guess the ending.
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned the consequences of these people's actions. There's the reimagining of the Hank on Janet fight that he is so famous for.
As opposed to him.
Is
I
there
don't
no
know
bug
I,
spray
I've
anymore?
heard that with the actual
Yeah.
with what happened in regular Marvel, it was just like he got mind controlled or something and slapped her.
I don't remember if he was mind controlled or not, but yes, it was just one slap.
Yeah, the
That was it.
original.
It was just
yeah,
one slap.
Yeah, in the Ultimates, it was a full issue of like a superhero fight
Yes.
where they were using their powers, but
Yeah, they
because
just
she had to
wrecked
defend
the
herself.
building.
Yeah, they wrecked their whole apartment, actually fighting, and it shows him as kind of a sadist.
Mhm.
You know, he's beating his wife, who's the Wasp,
Just
and when
he's
she tries to
frustrated with
hide from him by changing size and getting small, he pulls out bug spray
Yeah.
and goes after her.
And the thing I like about it is that, yeah, he's beating on her because he's frustrated with himself, but it really showcases the fact that there's a reason that Janet's on the Avengers, the Ultimates, whatever. She's a superhero.
Yeah.
She can fight back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying hit your wives, but I would think twice before I tried to slug a woman that could melt my brain.
Always a great way to start a sentence, by the way. I'm not saying you should hit a woman.
But
Works for Chris Rock.
That actually leads in, though, too, as far as when we're talking about Volume 2, because the fight was actually at the very end of Volume 1. Volume 2, kind of goes into the consequences of that. You get a great Cap moment where he,
Yes.
from the 40s, decides it's his job to go and defend her honor.
Yes.
He's got this, what some people consider an archaic mindset, but, it plays that debate. Is this the right thing to do? And he ends up making a complete fool out of a naked Hank Pym outside of a bar.
Right.
Which is awesome.
Yes.
He drags this guy out of a bar, and Hank looks at this guy and says, "Oh, you're a super soldier. I can grow to 60 feet tall."
continue.
So Steve says, "Go ahead and do it." And he does. And then Captain America beats the living hell out of him.
Yeah.
Like, dislocates his knee, beats a 6-story man.
He
Into
bulldogs
consciousness.
him. He bulldogs
Yeah.
him at the end.
And
of it.
let's not forget
Yeah.
the end of that. How big do you
Yeah.
feel now, dirtbag?
Yes.
How big do you feel now?
And after all
And
this-
that's why I love Cap.
Exactly.
Oh, but the cherry on top is that after this, Steve Rogers and Janet get together.
Yeah.
Oh, hell
And
yeah.
Hank has to watch this.
Well, that's the only way to defend someone's honor. You defend your honor, you get the booty in front of the ex. He's not running off, he's got dislocated knees.
But yeah, the end of the story is culminates.
I don't have a pal right in the kisser button. That sucks.
It culminates in this great big fight in, I think it was DC, between this new super team led from heroes from all over the world except America, who are just like vilifying the Ultimates. It's just these horrible people, and the Ultimates finally say, "Wait, Thor can do that? He's a god, and that's really his brother." All right, let's beat the hell out of him.
Love it.
So it just really came down to, all right, I guess we trust each other again, and let's hurt somebody.
So, The Ultimates. Should we read it?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Definitely.
I'm saying yes, because I've never read it. I'm going to go out, find it, and read it now.
We sold it to you.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
And now we'll sell it to you.
That's FCB, Comics and Games. All right, well, what we're going to do next is we're going to do a few questions from readers. Let's check a time. Yeah, we got some time to do this. Well, I'll ask Pat this one because I know this is pretty close to his. I don't know, not heart. You don't have one of those.
Prostate, maybe?
I was gonna say ass. We're right here. We're right here. How are comic books different than graphic novels? How do they differ?
They differ in how much pretension you have. It's a matter of, it's a marketing ploy. Do you want to be seen as reading this kiddie comic strip, or do you want to read a graphic novel, which is for a sophisticated reader? That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, when you read a graphic novel, you say, this is very interesting.
Yes. Yes. So what do you do when you read a comic?
You come and say, this is awesome.
Man, I'm having a great time.
This is fucking rad. Because apparently comics only existed in the 80s. I don't know why I said this is rad. I really haven't said that since like fucking 88.
But thankfully, Firestorm isn't saying it anymore.
All right, well, you are less of a Marvel man. You're more of a DC man. This is an actual question. What does DC stand for?
DC stands for Detective Comics. It was the first, basically, DC Comics sprang from, Detective Comics. Batman was, of course, one of the stories from Detective Comics. But one thing to note from there, whenever you hear somebody say DC Comics, that does mean they're saying Detective
Yeah, they
Comics,
just shortened it.
Comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God Marvel Nerd did that.
Uh-huh.
MC Comics. That'd be pretty pimp, though.
Yeah.
They did have MC
Wiki,
too
wiki,
for a while.
yeah. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, but let's not remember that.
They destroyed that for a reason.
All right, this is another one. What makes old comic books so collectible and expensive? And what features are people looking for? Who wants to take this one? Anyone? All right, go ahead, Drew.
As far as older comic books go, it's the same thing with most collectibles when it goes to, toys, sports cards, and everything like that. They come from a time where people didn't save them. So you get these first issues for a lot of, iconic characters. They're just part of, the cultural phenomenon now. Superman, Batman, and things like that. Back when those comics cost a nickel, it was something that a kid read and then it got thrown away or into a furnace to heat up dinner.
Yeah.
It kind of became something that, nostalgia would make people think, I want to read this again. It's part of my youth. Nostalgia is a lot of collectability, obviously, when people get into things like that. Unfortunately, there comes a time where that kind of backfires, whereas comics just really aren't as collectible anymore because everyone collects them.
Yeah.
I am pretty sure I have every comic that I've ever owned. And that would start when I was 4, maybe. So there are boxes and boxes and boxes of them. I just don't get rid of them. I don't get rid of a lot of things. But
That's a separate issue.
yeah.
Here's a
But
TV
Yeah,
aside,
that's a separate show. That's
oh, I
hoarders.
thought we were talking about medical problems.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyway,
What does it burn when I PvP? So go ahead.
Marvel specifically, and every comic company kind of took advantage of the fact that people did like to collect things like that. They started releasing things like special issues. Variant issues are still very popular. Unfortunately, they make most of the time just as many of them as they make.
Hologram covers and shit.
Oh yeah, hologram covers, which for a while,
Variant's hard.
yeah, and people would buy things. They would keep them on cardbacks and whatnot. And unfortunately, now I'm gonna say 85. It might even go a little, just 80s in general. Post 80s, most people kept these things, or if it seemed iconic, if it was a #1 issue, if a character showed up, it was hang on to this forever. It's going to be worth money. If everyone does that, it's just not.
Right.
Yeah.
So the valuable things come with something that is maybe popular in the late game, or something that is old enough that not a lot of it survives.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to come across a Captain America #1, his first appearance, which is a Marvel 100 from like '68.
Oh wow!
I actually I have it in the house now. I have 100, 101, 102, 103. So I have all 4 first appearances of Captain America. I mean, the first 4 series of the first appearance of Captain America, and I came across that in a buy I did for the store. That ended up not being a very good buy just because the condition everything was in.
Yeah.
And so I paid the guy almost next to nothing. I feel pretty bad about it because after I opened it and found a couple, first appearances of things, I felt really bad. And it was like another one that was in there was the first time Professor X actually was killed.
Oh yeah.
The first time, yeah. Let's see, he's faked his death. He's died how many times?
Like you've counted them. 7 times?
7.
I'm pretty sure that's the accurate
Now,
count.
now is that actual deaths or does that
Or
include fake?
does it include the faking?
I want to say that includes the fake deaths.
Yeah, which
It's anytime he was presumed dead.
I'll say which.
Okay.
Come on, that's just a dick move.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't really dead. I was downstairs in the basement.
He's
You
also,
didn't fucking hear anything for a year, guys? You got psychics in the house.
he's
Better
also
question,
been,
how many times has he been crippled?
he's been crippled, I think, 5 times. and then gotten his legs back.
Every time I see him, he's wheeling around somewhere.
Yeah, but that's
I've
the
never
thing.
seen him skipping.
That's why he's never really sad about it, because he knows they're coming back at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Let's see. I think we have time for one more question. It sounds like an easy one, depending on how deep you want to get in this. What's the difference between Marvel and DC? Vlad, you want to take this?
Honestly, other than the character lineup and the, I suppose, realism of said characters, I don't see a difference.
All right.
I've got one on the
What's that?
contrary.
I did as well.
Marvel has always kind of catered their books towards more realistic characterization, or I guess relatable characterization. You have characters like Spider-Man, who is, a weak kid, as a lot of us who like comics
They
were
have
at some
real
point in our
problems,
lives.
real
Yeah.
world problems.
Yeah, they have real world problems. They talk like real people. And whatnot.
Yeah.
They've done their best to market that. Whereas DC, and they've
As
done
Superman
things
and
recently to
Batman.
try and rectify this, but DC
Yeah.
overall, they have been the characters that you really can't relate to. You will
Yeah.
never be Superman. You will never handle things like Batman or whatnot. And you read those kind of for the escapism. Whereas a lot of people focus on Marvel in order to, you can cope with everyday problems with these characters. They happen to be dealing with, teenage issues like bullying in school and whatnot, but they also happen to be doing it with superpowers. I'm more of a DC person. I kind of always have been.
Yeah.
I like the escapism of comic books. That's not to say that I don't like Marvel. For the most part, I've always read both. But I do recall having a time in my early teens where I did drift more towards Marvel books because it just seemed like those were characters that I could relate to in my life then.
I have always been a Marvel man, so I understand what you're saying. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I growing up, Superman #1. He was like, I used to have Superman. Actually, I still have a Superman onesie, but
Nice.
I do it zips from the crotch to the throat, and I feel fantastic every time I wear it. But
Doesn't it have a cape too?
oh, it's got a fucking cape.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got a cape.
Yeah, it's not a Superman one.
Exactly.
Just
Otherwise, it's a fucking onesie, and that's it.
As a
the
quick-
cape,
Giant ass.
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it.
the
it's a
cape,
onesie with an S.
the cape makes
Yeah.
it super.
Yeah.
As a quick aside on this, just so you know, Under Armour just released a line of superhero shirts. So
Really?
What?
yeah, the alter
There
ego
we go.
line. So yeah,
I
look
love
out.
it.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's fucking move on to the main event here. Let's do the comic book death match. We're gonna do Gambit this week. Who wants to take pros and who wants to take cons?
Thinking we kind of prepared a little bit here. You guys are pro.
Yeah.
Pros. We're
You
con.
guys pro?
Yeah,
Cons?
I'll do
take
con.
pro.
Huh?
All right. Well, let me pull out the Gambit here. All right, guys. Who wants to do this? Let's flip a beer cap here. I guess Bass. You guys go. Tails, you guys. Oh shit! I can feel it in my hand. Cons go first. Go ahead, guys.
Honestly, I like Gambit. When I was little, I wanted to be Gambit.
He's
Just
my
for the
favorite
hair.
X-Men.
Yeah, and the idea of being able to pick this glass up, charge it, and then chuck it at you, not you specifically, no offense, but it's still a pretty cool visual. I like Gambit as a character. Honestly, I like the series. I think that it's written well. I don't think it can sustain itself, and I base that off the fact that no Gambit series that I've ever read could sustain itself. And he's a limited character. He can be used in great capacity in certain team environments and whatnot. But once you have him in a book like that, it's pretty much, I used to be a thief, but now I'm a hero. But now I'm going to be a thief again just for this mission. And once you do that over and over and over again, it just gets a little stale.
All right, Chris.
I liked Gambit when I was a kid. He was a real cool character. I know. He's a real cool character. Now to me, he's that dude that dresses funny and has the annoying accent. Also, he's someone that I tend to overthink. He's one of those a mutant with kind of a random power. Like, where does charging something with kinetic energy? Where does that come from? Why would you use that in regular life? Along with the fact that he also has super agility,
Yeah.
a little bit of super strength. Then there's the fact that it's just a book about a thief that's not supposed to be a thief anymore because he gave that life up when he became an X-Man. it just seems like a story that doesn't need to be told.
No,
along with the fact that where's it going to go next? Is he going to become a superhero, or is he just going to steal more stuff?
Yeah,
Just to be
go back
clear,
to being a superhero.
We're not attacking Cajun patois, okay? The annoying accent thing is just Chris.
I am attacking that shit.
No, it's
annoying.
fine. The Cajuns can't get us in this one.
Yeah, they don't internet.
My last name's Fuqua, Fuqua. All right, let's go over here to the pro side, and we'll start with Vlad. Go ahead.
All right. Well, the whole I was a thief and then I became a hero, but now I'm back to the thief keeps being brought up. And yes, it may seem like a limited idea, but it doesn't mean that he's only gonna steal. The first book literally starts off, so I don't belong in a team, even though they keep calling on me. I'm gonna go back to being who I really am, which is a thief. Like, the dude ran a thieves guild for a limited time, but he ran a thieves guild.
Yeah.
Which means thieving is in his blood. He's always gonna go back to it up until he dies.
He's Cajun.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. No, I'm on the
So,
It's so easy. I know.
and as far as powers goes, he picked a lock by overcharging it. He charged it and exploded. Open sesame. So the powers may seem random, but what's fantastic about the character itself, himself, is the way that he uses said powers. Like, charging a shot glass and throwing it at someone may not seem like the best course of action, but charging up a lock, as I mentioned earlier, is just genius. Who needs lockpicks when you can just almost silently pop any lock that you come across?
That's a good point.
I think that Gambit is a really underexplored character. He's always been my favorite X-Man, but he's always kind of in the background. And he's a guy that they come to, they're like, we need somebody sneaky for this mission, but we also need to have things blown up, so you're the obvious choice. But what this series is doing is it's taking a character that's only ever used as a superhero and kind of, yes, he's a thief, but in some of the later arcs, he interacts with MI13, which is the British superhero branch. And it almost feels more like a spy book. There's a lot of espionage and a lot of... he's a Cajun James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
With superpowers.
Because, yeah, he's got the swagger, he's got the skills, and in a pinch, he's a really scary guy. But he's not, guns blazing, fists flying, I'm just going to blast my way through every problem kind of guy.
Yeah.
So it's not only showcasing this character that you rarely get to see a lot of these days, but it's also showing him in a different light and showing that he is more complex than just blowing stuff up.
Well, all right then. Amazing points, actually. Every single person made amazing points. Unfortunately, I think this one's going to have to go to the cons. Which sucks. Oh no! Oh, I've got a button for that. Give me a fucking second. Let's see. Let's see.
Oh, the moment's passed.
Oh, there you go. It's still good.
Anyway, yes. Unfortunately, they did it, and this is actually one of my issues that I'm going to be saying goodbye to today. You guys made some very valid points. And I was really pulling for you, but unfortunately you weren't charismatic enough. And they also made fun of the Cajuns. So
They're easy to make fun of.
Yeah.
So
confess
guys,
that
yes, I would check it out. It's good for a read, but I agree with them. As far as a series goes, he's limited, which is like the other, 2 times they tried this?
Though both were intended as limited rounds, I think.
Yeah, but I don't know if this one is.
Yeah,
No, that one's intended as an ongoing.
Yeah, well, they need to...
There's one more good point.
They need to, they need to shorten it. It is good, and I think the Cajun James Bond was probably the most accurate description of Gambit ever. Unfortunately, this one is fucking a no-go, guys. Don't do it. It's not worth it. That being said, we're almost out of time, and I'm completely out of alcohol. In my glass. I'm going to bring up this, which is our prize for our viewers. This actual prize is a well zombie from the first series of The Walking Dead by McFarlane Toys, and it's going for pardon?
Second season.
Oh, it's the second. Okay, I thought it was the first series that came out. Second season?
Second season, yes.
Yes, but first series of toys.
Oh,
Correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes. So I was right. Disregard that. And this one is actually going to J.W. Smith 8921. So get us your information, and I'll be more than happy to get this sent out to you, man. That is completely free for you. Congratulations. All right, that brings us to the end of the show, guys. I would just like to thank our guest today. I think we had a good time, caught a little buzz. Everything's fantastic.
What's
Exactly.
better than that?
Join us again in a couple weeks whenever we do another episode here of Giant Size Issues. In the meantime, feel free to visit us at scbcomicsandgames.com. Also, like our Facebook page. You can follow us on Twitter once we get that going. And make sure to check us out on YouTube. It's Giant Sized Issues. So no D, Giant Size
Also,
Issues.
iTunes.
And also, we're on iTunes now. It's a free download. No video, naturally. But feel free to take us on the go. All right, guys. Enjoy your day.
All right.